they're a great battery for starting trucks. So as we move more into cycling and needing to support loads after an engine's off, we developed AGM batteries, and then progressively going into a more premium type of AGM battery is going to support those loads longer.
Welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvine. In this episode, we're going to discuss how modern heavy-duty applications are much more power intensive than they were in the past. And because of that, new technology is needed to be developed to meet the demands of our modern equipment. To help me with that, my guest today is Daniel Jones. Now, he is an application engineer at EnerSys. Daniel, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. So glad to have you here.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you, and always glad to be here.
I'd like to start our conversation off with a true or false question. True or false, modern heavy-duty commercial vehicles require more from their batteries than 25 years ago?
That's true. That's true. And it's not close. So today's heavy-duty trucks demands are significantly more electrical power than anything we saw 25 years ago. Batteries went from starting the truck, really, just it needs that quick burst of energy. And then now we're essentially rolling networks of electronics and cameras, telematics, sensors, all these devices. And that's a huge shift from what we've seen back in the day where everything was almost manual. You had to manually do everything yourself, right? And these things didn't exist.
Go back in time a little bit for us and maybe give us a bit of history on the evolution of batteries before we discuss the battery that we're here to talk about today.
Okay, so the flooded battery is a great battery for starting trucks. It's a reliable battery for doing that. Now, the many things about flooded batteries is they don't operate particularly well in partial states of charge and cycling. So they fall short on cycling. So anytime you cycle down a flooded battery, it's not going to get very long life. So that's kind of the thing that we've seen for years, and we still continue to see a lot of flooded batteries. And they're a great battery for starting trucks. So as we move more into cycling and needing to support loads after an engine's off, we developed AGM batteries, absorbed glass mat batteries, right? They're sealed. They are more vibration resistant, and they are moderately more apt to handle those deeper depths of discharge in cycling. And then when we get into our battery, our thin plate pure lead type of AGM premium battery, it's more of an evolution, right? So the plates are thinner, we have more surface area, we have a faster recharge rate, and a far better deep cycle performance.
So I'm going to go back in time when I was selling batteries. I worked for a couple distributors in my career. If I remember correctly, one of the issues with batteries that, before the AGM battery came out is that if those plates began to break down, then it reduced the capacity of the battery to hold a charge and do what it needed to do. So if I remember correctly, the AGM technology and having that mat surrounding those plates, like you said, that was really to help combat vibration and to protect those plates. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very accurate. So it helps that plate retention, right? If you think about those mats being in contact with the plates and keeping the electrolyte on the plates, that gives you a better surface area contact. So the more surface area you have, the more allowable depth of discharge and runtime you'll have with a battery.
Okay, and why does the AGM technology allow the battery to have those cycles, right? So we're drawing the battery down, drawing it down. Now we're charging it back up. We're drawing it down, charging it back up. Why does the AGM technology handle that a little better?
Yeah, so it's part of the components too as well, right? So we're not just talking about a flooded battery with plates in it. We have this mat and all these other things. They do change up how the lead plates are made, and active material. All those things play a part. So they're just designed in a way to support those loads, right? So it's a designed, engineered effort to prolong that for the application. So our application used to only start vehicles. That's all they did. Today they are starting, and they're basically a rolling hotel. We have found, OEMs have found, moving to this AGM style battery and then progressively going into a more premium type of AGM battery is going to support those loads longer and do it more efficiently. So we're looking at not only how does it support the loads once the truck is off, but how quickly can it recharge once we restart the truck. So that's a huge deal as well. So that's a duty cycle thing, right? Almost like a light switch coming on and off. Once we flip that light switch back on or crank that engine, and we want to get those batteries recharged just as quickly as we can if we're hoteling, for an example, so we can shut that engine back off and they can go right back to hoteling.
So at the time of recording, we're about to leave for TMC. By the time people are listening to this episode, we'll have just returned from TMC, the 2026 spring meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, your company at TMC debuted the Odyssey Evolution ODV31 battery. What's different about this battery? How has it been empowered with some new technology?
Yeah, so this battery is really an evolution. I'm so excited about this battery, and we think about our extreme battery, for an example, and it's got high cold cranking amps, and that's one of the things it's known for. It's high, it's got 1150 cold cranking amps. It can go 400 cycles for 80% depth of discharge. And what we were looking at is, especially on trucks with maybe an auxiliary battery bank. So instead of having just the 4 crank batteries, we also have 4 more batteries for hotel load. So we have 8 batteries on a truck. Do we need 8 batteries with 1150 cold cranking amps? So in our mindset, we're thinking, okay, we can pull back a little bit on the cold cranking amps and extend our cycle life. And that's what we've done. We pulled, so it's right around 800 cold cranking amps now from 1150. So it's closer to our performance line, but it gives us about a 60% increase in cycle life. So we got a higher cycle life, better charge acceptance, stronger performance and partial state of charge. And that's not something you're going to hear from a lot of folks is partial state of charge. What does that mean? And essentially what that means is as we drive battery voltage down, how well can we continue to crank an engine? And our partial state of charge on this battery is extremely great. So when we go down into that below 12 volts, so we're talking about 11.8 or so volts, we're really deeply discharged in the battery. We still provide high cold cranking amps. And that's due to the compression of the plates. So we build our batteries with a lot of plates and we squeeze them into that case, and that gives it really great contact with that pad. So that absorbed glass mat and our active material and all those things that are inside a battery, we squeeze it in, we take every inch of that case and we utilize every inch of that case and we squeeze it in and we push it in that battery. So that gives us a longer run time for hotel loads and improved vibration resistance. So not only that, we also have within that battery the Odyssey Connect chip. So that's going to monitor voltage and temperature over time. So yeah, it's a great battery for those extended, repeated 70-80% discharge events without losing life. It's going to give you so much more cycle life.
It's time to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back. Lowering total cost of operation involves looking at critical components that you put on your commercial vehicles and making sure that you are making the best selection for your application. With all of that in mind, I want to introduce you to the new standard in wheel end protection, the HubCorp's revolutionary X-Tractor. Now, what I like about this product, it's the only line of hubcaps that comes with a built-in 3-stage magnetic oil filter. And this is a safeguard for your critical wheel end components. In addition to that, it is actually a serviceable component on your vehicle now. And so it has a patent pending hex thread cartridge. And the X-Tractor makes hub oil servicing really simple and easy. And guess what? If you're not servicing that hub oil regularly, you are going to have premature failure of key components. It's just the way it works. So I highly encourage you to get on the wait list today. You can do that by heading over to thehubcorp.com. Check it out, get on the wait list, and you will get the most up-to-date information about when this product is available and also some price discounts that you won't get anywhere else. So go visit thehubcorp.com today. It's not just fleets and owner-operators that need to look at their total cost of operation and find tools that help them with their business. If you're running a repair shop, then you need tools to streamline your operations, and that's why I recommend FullBay. Now, FullBay has features like streamlined scheduling, real-time inventory tracking, technician efficiency insights, and detailed reports, on exactly every aspect of the business that you need to be paying attention to make sure that your repair shop is running as efficiently as possible. And what does this mean for you? Well, it means in the end that Full Bay is the very tool that's going to help you reduce downtime and make your shop more efficient, keeping the vehicles that you service on the road where they belong. Check out fullbay.com/power to maximize your shop's productivity today. That's fullbay.com/power. Manufacturers and distributors are a key component in the supply chain, and they play a vital role in keeping trucks and trailers rolling. I'd like to introduce you to Equip 360 by Gen Alpha. This platform helps manufacturers and distributors grow their part sales. But more importantly, it helps them make their customers' lives easier. And that's so important. With real-time insights into inventory, pricing, and order tracking, it's going to keep your customers coming back. Plus, it saves time by automating routine tasks and making repeat purchases simple. I encourage you to explore Equip 360 at genalpha.com, genalpha.com. Check it out today. We're back from our break. Make sure you go and check out the links in our show notes to all of our sponsors. Okay, let's get back to this episode. So I'm going to read you a quote from Jim Bevan, Senior Director of Transportation Products at EnerSys. And then we're going to do a bit of a deep dive because you just gave us the sales pitch on the battery and all the information about it, but we went pretty quick and I want to learn more. So here's what Jim had to say. As electrical loads increase across modern heavy-duty platforms, fleets need batteries that can withstand deeper cycling, harsher conditions, and extended service intervals. By combining proven AGM construction with advanced TPPL technology, we're delivering a solution built for reliability, durability, and a long-term value. So can you explain to me in more depth, why do batteries need to withstand deeper cycling today than they did, let's say, 5-10 years ago?
Sure. Because trucks, they don't shut off. It's not like they used to, where when you shut a key off and everything manually turned off. You go back 3-4 months down the road and you turn that truck back on and it started 25 years ago. Today we have those active telematics. It's almost like you leave your keys or your headlights on. Instead of having 60 milliamps of parasitic draw, maybe for an example, we may have 250, 300 milliamps, an amp of draw, depending on what we have going on. They have refrigerators in these trucks, so trucks don't shut off. And the HVAC, the telematics, all of these things equal less life for a battery overall. So you have to build the battery for the application. That's what we're doing. If we're cycling deeply every day, a standard flooded battery, it starts to suffer permanent damage once you get past about 30 to 40% depth of discharge. Our ODV can cycle up to 80% depth of discharge hundreds and hundreds of times. So instead of premature failures every season, fleets get a battery that matches the duty cycle of today's trucks.
Now, Jim mentioned extended service intervals. What's driving the need for extended service intervals?
That's trucks going down the road, right? So anytime a fleet has to down a truck, that's revenue out the window. So when we can extend oil changes, we can extend any type of maintenance thing like batteries or tires. We'll keep that truck rolling down the road. We keep the driver behind the wheel. He gets back home to his family when he's supposed to be, and he gets back out on that road again. So that's what we're supporting here. That's the effort we're supporting, and that's what we want for our end customer is a long, maintenance-free, deep cycle battery, starting and deep cycling.
So when I was selling batteries, AGM technology was kind of the new thing. I mean, it wasn't brand new. It had been around for a while, but it was what we were promoting. Tell me more about this TPPL advanced technology. Like, how does that take the AGM technology that I was selling, let's say 10, 12 years ago, to the next level? What is it all about?
It's very descriptive. A thin plate, pure lead, and those plates are pure, so they're calcium free. And why does that matter? What would that mean to an average individual? And what that essentially means is it's extremely low resistance and it's extremely resistant to corrosion. So the plates are more corrosion resistant. And what that really impacts fleets for is a lot of batteries live in partial state of charge. So they call that PSOC in the industry. And when you drive a battery down in voltage below 12.5, what begins to happen to the plates is they sulfate heavily. And when you're calcium free and you're free of other elements and you have a pure lead, they'll resist that sulfation much more effectively and efficiently. And when we do go to recharge, it'll clean off the plates easier. So from that standpoint, the technology part is your base materials are of more premium level, and it gives us that ability to shed that sulfation much easier when they sulfate. So they will off those batteries once they're discharged. That's a natural process. They sulfate, and then when you recharge, it pulls that sulfation back off the plates, and that's the part for our technology that is advantageous to life cycle and also lifespan and recharge efficiency, really. So we get a lot of folks don't want to talk about reserve capacity, and that's one of those things where you have a battery that can run a certain amount of amperage for a certain period of time. When you start to sulfate a battery and you don't fully recharge it, that runtime continues to get narrower and narrower and narrower to the point where, oh, I turn my key and it's not cranky anymore after a couple days.
Okay, so I think I said that acronym incorrectly when I asked you the question. So it's TPPL, thin plate, pure lead. Okay, that makes sense. So how does the Odyssey Connect system work? Because that was something that was highlighted in the press release about this new battery technology, and I wasn't really familiar with how that's working. I imagine that works through some form of telematics.
So our Odyssey Connect is it's a Bluetooth app that pairs with the batteries within Bluetooth range. So it's going to have the battery has a chip in it that monitors voltage and temperature over time. So it looks at things like excessive temperature or voltage extreme. So within the app on your phone, any Android or iOS device, you can download the Odyssey Connect app and you can look at battery extremes, such as, hey, my battery voltage went too high, maybe. It went over 15 volts, and that's not good for our battery. Our battery voltage went too low. We went down way below 10.5 volts for an extended period of time. So a truck's in a shop, needs a transmission or an engine or whatever. We didn't unhook the batteries. All those things stayed alive, and that app can see that, and it says, okay, we stayed at 4 volts for 3 months. Not a battery issue, right? Definitely not a battery issue. So that's like the most extreme thing. So the more granular things we can see would be, for an example, driver goes in and out, up and down the road 5 days at a time, and he comes in on the weekends, very consistent. But then maybe there's a vacations. We all take those, right? So we got a week long maybe in July, and we got a week in Thanksgiving. We got a couple weeks in Christmas or over the holidays there. And then we can see, we go back out to start our truck. What things could we have left on? Because we can see that on a graph. We can see it on a chart. We can also see that temperature inflection of when they jump start a battery from a very low state of charge and they let that truck run. You'll see the temperature climb with the voltage climb. So it'll go from maybe the ambient temperature is 30 degrees outside. They jump start your truck. If those batteries are sulfated, have high internal resistance, what does internal resistance create? When you hit it with a really high amperage, a lot of heat. So that battery's going to warm up, and you'll see that temperature trend. You'll see those batteries go they'll get fairly extremely hot. So all those things with big depths of discharge and extreme temperatures of heat, you're going to dramatically decrease any battery's life. So that's the mindset behind Odyssey Connect. It is Bluetooth, so you have to be within Bluetooth range currently. Our projections, we are working really hard with getting that into a telematics platform. So that's a future type of roadmap thing.
So I understand if I own the truck, if I'm a fleet, or if I'm an owner operator, and I've got the app and it's my battery, my truck. What if I've dropped it off at a repair shop, or I've got a mobile repair guy working on it? Are they able to just download the app and read everything as well?
Yeah, they can log in. They can log into that app just like you can and read that data.
Yeah, so you can tell the mechanic or the technician, hey, I've got this. Go ahead and check it. That way we don't have any issues. That makes sense to me. So speaking of the fleets and the owners of this equipment, One of the things that a lot of companies talk about, as did Jim in his quote, as did the press release on this new battery, it talks about being more proactive when making maintenance decisions. That's been a topic of discussion by most suppliers of parts, because they understand that fleets are now so focused on uptime, making sure they keep those vehicles running as long as possible. How does this particular battery help accomplish that? And what should the users of your product be thinking about to be proactive and make sure that they don't incur unscheduled downtime?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It helps. This app can help you identify high parasitic loads, for example. We may be driving deeper down in depth of discharge than they thought, and it gives you those data points, real live data. Is our battery being undercharged or overcharged? What are our cycling patterns? And I worked through this with a fleet yesterday. So, for an example, we could pull the data on one series of vehicles and say, okay, this vehicle isn't quite getting the battery life I expect. Why? I can't see anything within our charting that would indicate that. And then we look at another vehicle that may be a different maker or model, and it's getting extremely good battery life. They're under the same application duty cycle. What can we look at here? So within that, we found our alternator in that application that wasn't getting as good a battery life was overcharging the batteries at effectively a much higher rate. So under higher temperatures, it was charging too high. So the setting was off. That's just one example.
But it is a really good example. And that is something that I think we really have to have, is that systems viewpoint, right? When we're talking about electrical, it's not just the battery, it's all the rotating electric parts, it's all the other components in the system that are at play. And I think that's why we have to be more proactive now, because there's so many more things that could go wrong or be contributing to not getting the performance we were looking for.
Absolutely. So we're looking at going from reactive to proactive, and then we're going to get to the point where this data is so good it's predictive.
That whole predictive opportunity it's like, where's the top of that, right? And it just seems like the upside to the predictive maintenance has almost zero limits, because there's so many opportunities to save a fleet or an owner operator that unexpected. It's one thing to have the vehicle planned to bring it into the shop and you've got planned downtime. That's bad enough. But that unexpected, unscheduled downtime, that's what really hurts.
And as we get into more of these numbers and we see a threshold or a point, and we start setting up those guardrails, we can say, hey, this is our threshold of where we're standing at today, and it's a warning. We should probably get that vehicle in and get it looked at, check all our connections, test our batteries. And this isn't an unnecessary, just random maintenance test now, right? It's a specific pointed test to prevent those downtime situations. So that's where, when we hit those numbers, we can set off an alarm bell, and that it's such a great technology for that.
We've talked a lot about this new product that your company has brought to market, and we've talked about the advancing technology. If there's one thing you want people to remember from today's conversation, what's that one thing?
As we think about batteries and partial state of charge and how well we can crank an engine from partial state of charge, I think that is what type of battery technology is going to be most advantageous there, because that's where our trucks are living today. So that's kind of what we've talked about this whole interview, is the trucks are using power constantly and our batteries have to meet that need. So that's where we're adjusting and we're evolving, and we're getting better at that. So as we do that and we think about partial state of charge, every battery is going to operate better at 100% state of charge. But that's just not today's trucks. Unless we have them on a charger 24/7, and most applications and most fleets aren't going to do that, we're not going to live there. So the better we get at that, the better everyone else is going to get.
You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvine, and we've been speaking with Daniel Jones, application engineer at EnerSys. To learn more about their Odyssey batteries, go to odysseybattery.com. Links are in the show notes. Daniel, thank you very much for being on the Heavy Duty Parts Report. It was great to talk to you about the advancing technology in batteries.
Thank you, Jamie. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for listening or watching to this episode. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the show so you don't miss out on any new content. And as always, I want to encourage you to be heavy duty. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to subscribe to the Heavy Duty Parts Report YouTube channel, and click here to watch another great episode.